Hello! Time for another stream. A story time stream. And so, we continue. Marlfox. There it is. There it is, all looking fantastic. So, if you weren't here last night, Marlfox so far is about 3 separate groups dealing with these crazy foxes. It is another nighttime story time. And we have the family of squirrels, we have the circus troupe, and we have the people at Redwall Abbey themselves. So I guess we'll wait and see who else shows up before I start. And then we'll start with number 3, chapter 3, or chapter 4 actually. Yeah, chapter 4. And let me look ahead, see how long these are. Maybe we'll do at least 2 chapters tonight. We'll see if I want to do the 3. You watched the video earlier? That's great, man. So now you're caught up then. You know what's going on, which is good. I was gonna see if Steven showed up because he said he was going to. But fucking knows with him. I said I didn't want to try and curse as much in case kids later look up these videos. So I'm gonna try not to curse as much. Sorry, kids. Alright, I guess we'll just start with chapter 4. Yee. Look at this cute little illustration. Look at that. Look at those little squirrels again. Look at them. Look at them squirrely. Okay. Jangler Swifteye unfastened the tent canvas from his back and tossed it expertly across 2 rocks that stood a small distance apart. My dog wants to leave. Hold on. Hey, buddy. You alright? Okay. He was laying on my bed, and he decided to jump off right as I was beginning to read. So, is this a hat stream or not? I don't know. Go Phils. It's like too warm to wear a hat right now. Inside, anyway. Well, I mean, I can pretty much put to sleep here now, Lloyd. I don't mind. V4 seems to enjoy these streams. You know, the one we had. So we'll continue. Steven's here, he's ready. Alright, great. Okay. Jangler Swifteye unfastened the tent canvas from his back and tossed it expertly across 2 rocks that stood a small distance apart on a knoll overlooking a storm-swollen stream. Rimrose and Song weighted the canvas down with flat slabs of sandstone placed on its edges where they lapped the ground, working quickly, their heads bowed against the pelting rain. Grandma Elio hurried into the covered space between the rocks and swept out the wet leaves, creating a dry floor inside the makeshift shelter. Jangler dropped the last slab on the rear of the canvas, making sure it was stretched taut so it would not fill up and belly inward upon them. Straightening up, he blew rainwater from the tip of his nose, blinking hard against the scything curtains of wind-driven wetness. Primrose and Song were already inside and recover, and Elio called out urgently to her son, "Get ye in here fast afore these thunder bangs again." Dropping on all fours, the big squirrel scrambled in the confined shelter space, the others moving aside to make room for him. Elio jumped instinctively, as if a thunderclap sounded overhead. Jangler put a paw about her comfortably. "There now, Mum, need no be jumping about like a toad on a cinder. Thunder won't harm ye." But Grandma Elio was not to be placated. "Maybe thunder won't, but lightning will. Take off that knife of yours and be burying it, son. Lightning has a way of finding knives." Jangler knew there was a lot of truth in old wives' tales. Drawing the long blade he carried sheathed sideways across the back of his wide belt, he scratched a shallow trough, placed the knife inside, and covered it. Lying flat on his stomach, he rested his chin on both paws, watching the stream being peppered with torrential rain as it pounded furiously on its course. Song joined him, while Rimrose and Elio snuggled down at the back of the shelter. Jangler nodded in their direction. "Take a tip from them. Song and rest while ye can. Not ought to, but on this storm sleep out." These are weird sentences. The young squirrel watched the rain glumly. When's it going to stop so we can get to Redwall Abbey?" Her father shrugged. "It'll stop when 'tis ready to. Must be getting towards eventide now. If it ceases later on, we might be able to travel by night. You have a good night. I'll wake you if it clears up." "Yeah, Steven, get some sleep, man." Song tried to sleep, but the longer the bad weather continued, the less she felt like sleeping. Twilight lent a strange aspect of woodland and stream, and a weird gray-yellow nimbus hovered over the banksides, cast through with a dull lilac glow. Gradually she began to drift towards slumber, lulled by the sound of rainfall and swishing treetops, but then a sharp movement from her father brought her back to instant alertness. "Be silent, Strong, and don't move. Look at that stream." A long log boat thundered by a rolling current. Seated in the prow were two Marlfoxes, identical to the two they had encountered, and the large, scrawny water rats. Some brown, others black or gray, packed the boat from stem to stern. The majority of the rats were paddling oars, skimming and sculling to keep the craft upright and on course, while the rest were busy bailing out stream and rainwater without any implements they could lay claw to. I guess it's Irish, Cockney, New Jersey. The accents do not remain consistent for these characters. Jangler muttered to Song outside of his mouth. "Just as well be hearing your grandma snoring in this little lot. Be still now. Here comes another." A second logboat forged along in the wake of the first. Jangler moved forward, poking his head out in the rain, peering upstream. "There's more of 'em. Another 4 if I ain't mistaken. Never seen aught like this before. I'm a-going to take a look. You stay put, son. You know where my dagger is if you need it. Don't wake your mum or grandma. What they don't know can't hurt 'em. Be back soon." Not far from the knoll where they had camped, a big, gnarled, cracked willow overhung part of the stream. Jangler's swift eye climbed about with surprising speed and grace for a squirrel of his size and weight. Skipping nimbly along one of the main libs that bent over the water, he tested it for firmness. 2 more logboats had passed beneath the willow. Their occupants were unaware of the presence of a squirrel overhead. Jangler looped his tail and footballs firmly around the sturdy bough, hanging downward almost as if he were a part of the tree. Another log-boat bobbed past the turbulent waters. He let it sail by beneath him, noting that all the vessels were packed with water rats, but only the Marlfoxes were the 2 in the lead boat. Unwinding the sling from his waist, Jangler readied himself as the final craft shot toward the willow, a foaming boat wave, curling side to side as it plied the water. 3 rats in the stern were bailing busily. So much alliteration. As the logboat bent to scoop up a bowl full of water, suddenly a noose settled around his neck and a paw clamped around his mouth like a vice. The rat's footballs were hauled swiftly clear of his scuppers, and the logboat shot on without him, his companions not even noticing his departure. Jangler flopped the water rat up over the willow limb like a landed fish, dealing him a sharp blow between ear and jaw side. Working efficiently, he sat him on the branch, whipped the sling from the stunned rodent's wreck, and bound his middle to the tree. A soft moan escaped the rat's lips as he began to come around. Jangler patted his cheek playfully. "Hush-a-bye now, me old collie. You sit there a while until you're ready and willing to do a bit of talking." Song watched her father emerge from the sheeting rain. He was carrying a bundle and whistling cheerfully between his two front teeth. One of the lazy hooded eyes winked slyly at her as he ducked to enter the shelter. "Found some nice dry pine wood back there. Must be only the bit of timber left in Mosswile that ain't wet this evening." Clever father. Song unearthed the knife and took tinder and flint from their pack. Striking the flint against the spine of her blade, she blew softly on the bright sparks that fell on the dry, mossy tinder. A thin blue column of smoke rewarded her efforts, and followed by a glowing tiny flame, Jangler began adding pine splinters until they set sufficient fire, going to a pile of some of the pine billets. Wakened by the smell of wood smoke, Rimrose held her paws out to the flame gratefully. "A nice fire. Would you two like something to eat?" Grandma Elio's voice came from the back of their shelter. "Aye, us three would like a bite if ye don't mind." The last of the provisions was made into an acceptable meal. Song sliced up the final piece of Rimrose traveling fruit and honey cake, while her grandma brewed a kettle of mint and comfrey tea. Rimrose had saved 4 oat cakes and a small wedge of cheese. She toasted the cheese and oat cakes together. The family sat by the fire, staring out into the rain-swept night as they ate. Later, Jangler took out his flute and played, encouraging Song to sing. "I once knew an ant and knew him right well. This ant he lived in a hazelnut shell. He had no relations to count by the score. They used to come knocking on his tiny door. One was called Distant, he lived far away. Another was Pleasant, he bids you good day. A third was Constant, he was never away. Then there was Hesitant. Now, sure, he'd stay. An old, poor, reluctant ant, not sure too, yeah, that's right. And one called Valiant, stout and true. Now I'll tell you the reason they all came to call, 'cause this ant was the most important of all." So you get a lot V4, a lot of ant jokes there for you. As the final echo of the ballad died away, a gruff voice called from the stream bank, calling Elio to jump at the fright. "Well sung, young missy, you got a fire pretty voice on ye." Song immediately grabbed for her father's knife, but Jangler stayed her paw, a smile flitting across his half-closed eyes as he replied. "Aye, better than old scraggled shrew could sing, I'd wager." Surrounded by a party of goise, and Lug-a-Lug strode up to the shelter. "Ha! Jangler Swifteye, you fat branch bonder, I heard you were dead 3 seasons back." Jangler shook his old friend's paw heartily. "Lug-a-Lug, Goysum, you big-bellied broke beast, I heard you died more than 4 seasons ago." The shrew threw a paw about the squirrel's shoulders. "Well, we must be the 2 healthiest ghosts in the woodlands, then." Introductions were made all around. The shrews joined in their old logboat sails, which they carried with them to Jangler's shelter. Using oars and dead branches, and taking advantage of nearby bushes, they soon extended the covered area. Lug-a-Lug sat by the fire, gratefully accepting a bowl of tea from Elio, while he told Jangler what had fallen him and his tribe. The squirrel listened intently, then told Lug-a-Lug of his first encounter with the Marlfoxes. The shrew scratched his ear thoughtfully. "Do you think the 2 you met are the same 2 who stole our boats?" Jangler shook his head emphatically. "Impossible. We were too far apart. But I saw the 2 foxes that took your boats this very evening." Lug-a-Lug's paw grabbed his rapier hilt. "You saw them? Where?" "They sailed right by here. Round twilight. 6 boatloads of them, water rats with the 2 foxes sitting forward, and the first boat to pass. So I went to take a look." "So tell me, what'd you see?" The squirrel's long lashes flicked idly. "Wasn't much to see. I figured they wouldn't stop to chat with me, so I worked the old rear ambush and captured one." Lug-a-Lug leapt up and drew his rapier. You captured one. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? Jangler rose with a sigh. Because you called me fat and said I died 3 seasons ago. Come on, stop looking so injured, I'll take it in. The water rat was fully conscious, but his face showed little emotion as Jangler loosed his bonds and hauled him down from the cracked willow. Log's rapier point was swiftly at the rodent's throat. The shrew's voice dripped menace. Now, matey, were you going to be a bit of fast talking? Who are these Marlfoxes? How many of them is there? And what are you doing in these parts? Make it easy on yourself and speak. The rat's face was blank, his eyes devoid of either fear or hatred for his captors. Jangler prodded the rat's chest with a hard paw. Where do you come from? Are you the same place as those foxes? I hear they come from a secret island at the center of a great lake. Tell us about it. Who rules there? The rat's expressions never changed, though. Log noticed the paws were trembling visibly. The shrew leaned close to Jangler and spoke in a whisper so the water rat would not hear them. What do you make of this one, mate? Mayhaps he's a mute. Look out. Before either creature could stop him, the rat dashed back a few paces and flung himself into the swift-flowing stream. Log and Jangler rushed to the water's edge and stood helplessly, watching as the rodent was swept away on the wild racing surge. It was far too rough and speedy, even for a water rat, as his paws struggled feebly against the surging mass until a broken rowan tree came hurtling like an arrow on the current. It struck the unfortunate rat, and he sank instantly. Log screwed up his face in disgust. It's always bad when a life's wasted for no reason, even the life of a vermin like that. Jangler fastened the sling back around his waist. I wouldn't say the rat's life was wasted for no reason, mate. We might not know why he did it, but no creature could live in that current, so he knew what he was doing. He must have been really terrified if he killed himself rather than betraying the information. The shrew stood staring at the spot where the rat had gone down. You're right, Swifteye. Now let's go and get some sleep. Mayhaps we find the answer to all this when we reach the Abbey of Red Wall. So we're back. Upcoming is the circus, apparently. Call you Isabella. Okay. If I remember before. The wandering Noonvale companion's cart was stuck up to its axles in mud. Florian wrung rain from the hems of his frock coat and bellowed mournfully. Oh, calamity, follow and woe unto us! Abroad on a night like this, in the midst of a hurricane, nay, a typhoon, a veritable deluge! And now, to cap it all, we are sinking slowly in the muddy oblivion of a bottomless quagmire. Brave hearts and faithful friends, 'tis a night for lamentations. Ooh, like a bally what? Runtkip tried unsuccessfully to block a rip in the canvas of the covered cart with a pennant he had plastered with mud. Aye, you could do with lacking this day right enough. Pesky rain'll drive 'em off me spikes if I don't stop. Boracle, who was caked in mud from the waist down, up to the waist from trying to get the cart unstuck, grinned mirthlessly. Cheer up, we're only lost starving and likely to be drowned by morning. At least there's plenty of water to drink out there. Roop twitched his nose at the otter. Oi, bain't 'ee thirsty, thank 'ee, so through. Tain't 'ee whether oor'n be worried over 'twiz trouble. Ellie, young meister's gone very quiet, and oint look it. Decent instantly leapt to the defense of her charge. You're quite heartless, Mr. Roop. See, the dear little one is slumbering innocently. Elichim, the other otter brother, who was trying to sleep at the same end of the car as the mouse bait, shifted his position, muttering, "Slumbering innocently? This wretch is snoring like thunder, and he keeps trying to eat me tail as it is in his dreams." Muggle flung her soggy turban at the otter. "Grr, don't you mention eating again. More poor stomach is a growling and a groggling. Look of thunder and lightning." Dejectedly, Florian pulled out his battered one-string fiddle and plucked at it experimentally. Tcha! Confuddled weather! Knocked it all out of tune, what? Nevertheless, he scraped it away with a tattered bow and began singing a song he composed as he went along. Dear mother, I am hungry, hungry, and starving as well to boot. Oh, to be back home in your orchard so full of delicious fruit. If I am perishing to die before morning, my last thought will be thought of you, and a smile of father's whiskers, and a whacking great bowl of stew. Are grandpa's teeth still missing? The way I'm missing you? You're the nicest my son could have, and I've had quite a few. Farewell thee, my parents, for quite soon I must die. But if I get home before midnight, don't let grandma eat all the pie. Florian's song was abruptly cut off with a soggy tunic flopped in his face. He removed the offending article, which had become tangled with his ears and whiskers, and held it up. What you waddle through this? Own up immediately, what? He demanded with an air of injured dignity. The troops stared at him in blank innocence. Baby Dwapple shook with malicious mirth, but kept his eyes tight shut, pretending to be asleep. Fucking little baby. He even threw in a couple of lusty snores for good effect. Deesum stroked his head fondly, murmuring, "So young, yet so talented. One day you'll be a great actor." Night closed in around the little cart in the woodland as the rain continued to batter down. So that was chapter 4. Bum bum bum. Not much happened beyond the squirrels captured one of the water rats who decided not to talk and instead flung himself into the river because he'd much rather die than give up any information. Now that's some fucking hardcore loyalty. These Marlfoxes must be some fucked up people. Have another sip before I continue. Alright, so chapter 5 illustration. And honestly, I don't, I know these had illustrations, but I don't really remember them as a kid. I remember more the stories. And, I more so only remember some of the characters. I remember in the Redwall Abbey, which I think this next chapter is about. No, this next chapter is about the foxes. So it's the fox's point of view coming up. But I really only remember, I remember Log all the time. And I remember the son squirrel at the Abbey. Dan is his name, Dan Floor. I remember him and Log from this book mostly. Although, I might be wrong. I think Log is a title that's passed down in the shrews. So I think there's more than one Log, but I might be wrong on that. I don't know. So Redwall takes place over years, the series. So anyway, chapter 5. That's the lake. That's the lake where the foxes live, which are apparently real foxes, silver foxes, they're a mutation of the red fox. So it's not gray foxes, and they're supposed to be a mutation breed in here, which is a thing in real life. So chapter 5. One more sip. Drinking white grape juice, by the way. The lake was so huge that no beast standing on any part of the shoreline could tell its sweeping vastness held an island at its center. Not even birds, because they knew better than to try fly across the lake. Whipping up the surface into a frenzy of crested waves, the storm raged throughout the night hours. Rain howled like a wild thing, driven by the winds. From the billowing masses of the black and purple bruised cloud that obscured the moon, thunder crashed and lightning ripped down in a flickering dance across the heaving waters. Inside Castle Marl, a grim-faced band of brown-livered water rats were trying to drown out the storm noise with music. They plucked at stringed instruments, struck small gongs, and played strange melodies on flutes and pipes of various sizes. From cellars to attics, they paraded up and down the fortress's many ramps. There were no stairs inside Castle Marl, just steeping long sloping ramps, winding or angled everywhere. The odd group followed a curtained palanquin, a long box-like affair with a silken tassel drapes around its side, borne on 4 thick poles running beneath its length and width. Over 1.5 rats bore the old conveyance, treading with carefully measured paces so that the box was kept perfectly steady at all times, and by the side of the palanquin strode a Marlfox. When a sharp tapping noise issued from within the covered box, the carriers stopped moving instantly. A harsh, rasping voice sounded from behind the silken curtains. "Lantur, tell them to play louder. I will not be disturbed by weather noises, for I am mightier, more powerful than storms. These fools must play louder. The storm stopped me sleeping, so they must outplay it. That is my command." The Marlfox Lantur strode back to the musicians, who had already heard the order. Nevertheless, she repeated it in the imperious tone of one used to command others. "The High Queen Silk decrees that you play louder. If you disobey the royal word, you will all answer to the teeth of the deeps. Play louder. You there, bring the chanters so they may add to the music by singing the High Queen's praises." More water rats were quickly brought to join the band. At a nod from Lantur, the procession continued, the chanters droning along time with the musicians. "All-powerful mighty queen, whose beauty was never surpassed, far brighter than the sun whose rays it will outlast. We live to serve you truly until our final breath, knowing you hold all secrets, the power of life and death. Wisest of wise, greatest sublime, rulers of our isle for all time." Rats with incense burners scurried ahead of the bearers, wafting sweet smoke into the air so that it would drift down between the curtains. Lantur drew to palanquin and spoke in a comforting, wheedling tone. "You see, O Queen, whatever your heart desires is yours." The harsh, rasping voice came back to her, childish and complaining. "I cannot bear not to be surrounded by beauty and calm. Oh, my head hurts with the noise of thunder. Lightning flashes throughout my brain. Tell them to play louder, Lantur, louder." The Marlfox smiled as she bowed low. She resembled the 4 who had accosted Jangler Swifteye and the Noonvale companions, but was slightly smaller and finer featured in a more sinister way. Silkily, she said, "Your wish is my command, all-powerful one." Outside Castle Marl, the storm raged on, oblivious of the pathetic sounds from within as they strove to drown out the greatest sound of all, the power of weather, combined with the forces of nature. Below, in the rear courtyard, lines of manacled slave beasts, squirrels, otters, hedgehogs, and mice stood with weary heads bowed in the downpour, waiting for the barred pens to be unlocked. The sadistic slave captain, the water rat Ulig, lounged under the protruding roof shelter, jangling a bunch of keys at his belt. "So then, me lucky lot. You're getting off easy then, today. Darkness arrived early because of the storm, and I ain't standing out in the fields getting drenched. But you'll work twice as hard tomorrow, or you'll feel my lip around your backs, struggling." His heavy cloak closer about him, Ulig smiled wickedly at the tired, saturated slaves. "Ain't that right? Come on, let's hear you speak. Speak up." The wretched beasts were all forced to call it in chorus. "Aye, right, Captain." Ulig tossed a bunch of keys to a water rat guard. "You open up and get 'em under cover till dawn." Shuffling through the deepening puddles, the slaves crowded into the pens, throwing themselves down on the damp straw bedding, grateful to be under cover. Locking the pens, the guard returned the keys to Ulig. 2 more guards staggered from the barracks right nearby, carrying between them a cauldron of boiled maize porridge, which they placed close to the bars. Yolig watched the slaves thrusting their paws through and scooping at the rapidly cooling mess into their mouths. He shook his head at the pitiful sight. "I'm far too kind to you lot. Mustn't be getting soft with me long seasons." Laughing to himself, he strode off to the cover of the barracks where a warm fire and good food awaited him. So that was our introduction to the fox's point of view. That queen is a huge fucking... Damn it. That queen is mean. She is very mean. Anyway, we're switching back now to the squirrel family, it looks like. The squirrel and the shrews, so. Song slept heavily, as it was long past dawn when the young shrew called Dippler flicked rainwater at her head. "Come on, Dozy Chops, wake up or you'll snow until autumn." The squirrel maid had chummed up with the old Goysome shrew, who was roughly her own age on the previous evening. Now Song opened one eye and lay unmoving as she threatened her newfound friend. "You've just done 3 things that really annoyed me. 1, you flicked water on me when I fell asleep. 2, you called me Dozy Chops. Worst of all, though, was number 3. You said I snore. For that, my friend, you're going to take an early bath in the stream." Leaping up, she dashed after Dippler, who was very agile and could duck and dodge with ease. They flew past Jangler and Loggalog, showering them with the wet backsand churned by their paws. "Aye, aye, steady on there, you young rowdies." The shrewd chieftain shook sand off himself, grinning at Jangler. "Wish I had the energy of them too. 'Tis good that your song's palled up with Dippler. That young'un ain't got many friends. He was the one doing guard duty when our boats went missing." Jangler dodged smartly as the pair chased by him again. "Well, he won't go far with Song. She's a good one, mate, and she don't make friends lightly." Song and Dippler dodged out a bit more on the bank, and they flopped down the ground, grinning at each other. Dippler held up Paul, panting fitfully. "Truce?" Song nodded. "Truce it is. Look, the rain's almost stopped." I mean, I've seen pictures of the foxes before, Lloyd, but yeah, I'll take a look. Last night's high wind was gone, and the downpour had slacked off to a fine drizzle, though the skies were still slaty gray. Loggalog called out to the shrews. "Break camp, mates. Scrub's all gone. We be heading for Redwall in a company with Swiftall and his family. Mayan, Bargle, stick with Grandma Elio at the Lender Paul. Fennel, douse the fire. Spickler, take 2 scouts and march ahead of us. Bit of luck, and we'll soon make the Abbey sometime in the late noon." The woodlands dripped water all morning as the party followed a trail left by Spickler and his scouts. Song and Dippler walked slightly ahead of the main group. Suddenly, a big otter emerged from the trees and approached Loggalog. The shrew scarcely gave him a glance. "Mornin', Skip." The big otter returned the greeting non-committally. "Mornin', Log." Loggalog nudged Jangler. "This is Skipper of Otters. Skip, meet Jangler Swifteye. We're going to Redwall." Jangler nodded at Skipper, who winked back in reply. "So am I, matey. Me and the crew went over the waterfalls 3 days from here, 'cause of the hot and dry weather." Hot and dry? Never expected this little lot. Anyhow, I left the crew at the falls having fun. I decided to drop by this way and see if everything's over shipshape over at the Abbey after the storm. Where's your boats, mate? 'Tisn't the Goysome to be hoofing it through the woods." Loggalog rolled his eyes skyward, making light of his misfortune. "Oh, we lent him to a crowd of water rats and a couple of Marlfoxes. Don't worry, though. We'll get 'em back and make them vermin pay for the hire of 6 good log boats. Take my word for it." The conversation was interrupted by Spickler, who came trotting back on his own tracks, gesturing the paw over his shoulder. Left the scouts further along the trail, Chief. There was all sorts of noises coming from the edge of the marshy area. Come and see what we found. You won't believe your eyes." He turned round and ran off the way he came. Their curiosity aroused, and the entire party hurried after him. Florian Duggle-Wolf-Whifflechop made a brave figure as he stood on the seat of the half-submerged cart like a captain of a sinking ship. In one paw he held the long sword in which Runkip had menaced the Marlfoxes. It was only a trick stage prop, and he kept bending it in the middle of its blade. Notwithstanding this drawback, Florian brandished it at the grinning shrews. Laugh all you want, you scurvy villains. You'll not take me alive. By the cringe and fur, you won't not while there's a breath left in this poor body to defend the ladies and the infant. What? One of the shrews laid his rapier on the ground. We ain't gonna hurt you, mate. You got me word on it. Youch! Drupal hung over the back of the cart, loading another stone in a small sling. He announced with an innocent smile, I'm an infant. I shoot it with me slinger, hee hee. I think that's the worst character, is this Dwapple baby. Not good. The shrew rubbed furiously at his swelling nose. You little pot scraping, that ain't fair. We came here in peace. Florian waved the flapping blade of the sword at him. A likely story, ha! Peace me flippin' whiskers. I'll have you know you're dealing with a band of expert warriors, trained to slay with a single bally swipe. What? Skipper Logolog and Jangler arrived on the scene at this point, closely followed by Slong and Dippler. Song immediately went to the injured shrew and held a pawful of damp moss to his nose. What's going on here, may I ask? She said. At the sound of a sweet musical voice, Florian was transformed. Sweeping off his straw hat, he bowed so low he almost fell into the mud surrounding the cart. Faith, miss, your tones are music to me ears. What? Pray dissuade this small surly rogues from attacking us. We are innocents lost. A simple troop of strolling players ravaged by an unseizable quirk of the weather and unjustly menaced by savage, spike-purred persons. The shrew took the damp moss from his nose long enough to argue back. You flop-eared old fraud, you was the one going to attack us. Deesum showed herself, wringing a large flowered kerchief anxiously. Oh, desist from the bickering and help us, please. Gallantly, Skipper and Jangler helped the troop from the cart, taking care to swing out the clear of the mud. Introductions were made all around as the Goysum rolled into their canvas sails into the long bands, attaching them to carts like tow ropes. Skipping and Jangler found a good stout yew limb to use as a lever. The cart rocked back and forth, making wet sucking noises as the team of Goysum pulled and Skipper levered. Jangler found the shaft in the cross tree beneath the mud and hauled. With their combined efforts, they soon had the cart back on the ground. Skipper shook mud from himself as Florian thanked him. My, what a stout fellow you are. Stout fellows all, in fact. Let us put on a performance for you in gratitude for your sterling services in recovering our jolly old transport. What? Skipper could not help smiling at the effusive hair. Lucky you never went any further out, you would have got stuck, matey. There's a swamp out there, and you wouldn't have been a trace of you creatures or your cart in the middle of the marshes. Ooh. Grayson did a graceful swoon and fainted. Jangler indicated her prone form with a nod at Elio. Bring her around, Mum. Mr. Florian, your performance will have to wait till another time. We've got to get the Redwall Abbey afore dark. Florian did a comical double take. Redwall Abbey, sir? Capital. The very place we are proceeding to. Mayhap we may wend our way together. Strength and unity, you know. I can defend you from any blackguards, rogues, or hardpaws we may encounter on the way. Lead on, my good fellow, lead on. Deesum gave a yell and sprang upwards. Boracle looked in awe at Elio. You soon brought her out of that faint, marm. You must have had a good medicine. Elio clambered onto the cart. Good medicine, nothing. I could tell she was faking, so I just bit the tip of her tail. That brought her around all right. That's a good little cart. Saves me old balls of bet. Move over, youngin'. Doppel moved, scowling at the old squirrel. She scowled right back. Just put a paw near the old slingshot of yours, and I'll bite your tail off clean off to teach you manners. Illich and the otter yelled, Here's the good old sun to come chase the dull clouds away. After the prolonged rain, wind, and dark skies, a bright summer sun set every beast's spirit soaring. Cheering and laughing, they continued their journey to Red Wall. So now we're back at Redwall. Late afternoon found Triglo and Danfor out on the path by the abbey, gathering dandelions in the sticky-budded burdock. The cellar keeper explained to the finer points of the plants as they culled them to a rush basket. Dandelions, now you can use them for brewing or in salads. Pick the young'uns with plenty of buds on. They're the sweetest. Danfor smelled the lemony fragrance of a young bud and nibbled on it. Right, Treglo, they do taste good. Which burdock do I pick? The hedgehog pointed them out. Those smaller ones. They're the lesser burdock, much bigger than the big ones, and they're called the greater burdock. Good juice in lesser burdock. You can use it for treating burns and bruises, or you can take the whole plant for brewing, or use the stalks in salads too. Hold hard there, young Dan, who they be coming up on their path. Hold her there, young Dan, who they be coming up on your path. Danforth shaded his eyes from the sun, watching the strange assortment of creatures in the canvas-covered cart approaching the abbey, and an otter in front raised his paws and called out, "Redwall!" Draglo climbed out of the ditch where they had been gathering plants, wiping his paws on his apron. He chuckled. "Me old pal Skipper and some friends by the look of 'em. Going to give the bells a toll, Dan. Let everyone know we got company." The young squirrel scampered off, delighted to have the privilege of being bell ringer. Hurrying into the ground floor of the bell tower, he grabbed the two ropes, one in each paw, high up, and pulled with all his might. Boom, boom. Danforth's footpaws shot off the floor. He dangled there for a moment, then came down to the ground again as the bells tolled a second time. Releasing the ropes, he ran outside and joined the Redwallers, who were hurrying toward the gate, eager to meet the visitors. Danforth's father recognized a friendly face instantly. Hugging and patting, they greeted one another. "Jangler Swifteye, you haven't changed a hair since the old days." "Ha ha, neither have you, Roswell Raguba, you old warrior." "Hello, Rimrose, you look well. I'll wager that's your daughter, Jangler? A lot prettier than you, and she's got your long eyelashes. Come here, son, I want you to meet my old pal Jangler and his family. This is Danforth Raguba, son of a warrior." Song shook Danforth's paw. "I'm Song Reese Swifteye, but they all call me Song. Pleased to meet you, Song. I'm Danforth, but they all call me Dan." "Where's your mother, Dan? Is she here?" Danforth looked down awkwardly. "She died when I was very small. I don't even remember her." There was a moment of embarrassed silence, then Dippler bounded up. "Hello, you found another pal for us, Song. Don't introduce him. I'll guess his name before the season's done." Song gave the shrew a playful shove. "This is Dippler. He throws water on squirrels when they're trying to sleep. Dippler, meet our new friend Dan." Brother Melliot had been holding a whispered conversation with Badger Mum Craiga. She nodded in agreement with him. Melliot banged the main gate timbers with a copple ladle to get attention. "Friends, guests, travelers, whoever you may be, welcome to the Abbey of Redwall. Now, do you want to stand out here gossiping and backslapping until dark, or would you like to come along inside and get something to eat?" Florian's voice rang out over the general chorus of approval. "Eat? Ha! Did my ears deceive me, or some beast mentioned victuals? Lead me to the jolly old table, and I'll show you what a peckish thespian can accomplish armed with only the mouth and the appetite. What?" Formal Gubbio murmured to the Gerbil Sulamol. "Her be own lessons, or I'll wager your creatures Gertly Ogund." Sister Slowly, who had heard the remark, nodded with agreement. "That hare looks as though he could strip the orchard bare on his way to clean out the kitchens." The visitors were seated on the lawn, close to the Abbey pond, while numerous Redwallers logged off to the kitchens to prepare food for them. Loggalog, Jangler, and Florian sat apart from the rest, quietly reported that Marlfox's sightings to Craiga, Friar, Buddy, and Nutwing. The blind badger listened carefully to what they had said before giving her verdict. "I'd always thought Marlfoxes were a legend, some kind of bogey beast whose name was only used to frighten naughty young Dibbins. But in the light of what you have told us, I think there could be a great danger in the presence around Mossflower." Nutwing preened his wings thoughtfully. What's to be done about them? Loggalog says that we got considerable number of water rats, and that means extra trouble." Friar Buddy looked around the group. "We need the advice of an Abbey warrior. Trouble is, old Abbot Arvin was the last Redwall champion, but he's passed away. I don't suggest any of you creatures would have a suggestion." Jangler's slitted eyes betrayed little as he spoke his piece. "Here's what you do. First, you shut that Abbey gate tight. No beast leaves Redwall except for scouting patrols. Our friend Logalo can organize his Goysome shrews for that. Meanwhile, we'll use what warriors we have to defend our organized defenses. Skipper, Woosful, and myself." Craiga's heavy paw patted Jangler's shoulders. "Think the seasons were not without sensible warriors. You arrived at Redwall not a moment too soon, friend. Friar buddy, what do we know of Marlfoxes? Is there anything in the Abbey recordings that might help us? I'll take a look, Marm. Mayhaps you'll help me, Nutwing? The owl began polishing his spectacles on his breast feathers. Of course I will. I'll do my best to remember all you say. Jangler had another suggestion to make. If you want to know about Marlfoxes, I'll start by asking me old Mum Elio. She's never spoken too much about it, but I'm sure she's got a couple of tales concerning such beasts. Meanwhile, over at the pond, Dan scooted a flat pebble over the surface, counting the number of times it skipped. I make that 5, of course. I'm pretty used to this pond. See how many times your bounces song. The flat brown pebble song had skimmed out while they watched it. 4. No, 4 and a little one. Oh, go on then, we'll call it 5. Righto, Dippler, let's see if you can beat 5. The young shrew picked up a pebble, not bothering about its shape or weight, and slung it against haphazardly, turning his face to his friends as the stone skipped on his journey across the water. 8. But you must remember I was born around water, been skimming stones before I could speak. Damfler was watching the main abbey door from the corner of one eye. He now noticed Brother Melia emerge with a ladle and a flat pan. The young squirrel smiled slyly at his companions. You two are pretty clever at most things, aren't you? Well, let's see how good you are at being first in for scoff. He took off from them at a dead run at the same instant that Melia began banging the ladle across the pan and shouting, "Victuals ready and great tall, come and get 'em one and all." Song and Dippler pursued Dan, berating him. "You crafty rotter, wait for us. True Walloper, least you could do was give us a level start." Mockin, the Marlfox pointed to a sheltered creek at the stream side, raising his voice. "This should do. Pull in here and hide the boats under those trees." The female Marlfox, Zyril, leaped ashore and watched until the last log boat had turned in the inlet. When the water rats had disembarked, she called 2 of them. "Alec, Rubib, take 6 trackers apiece, spread out and go separate ways. Find our brothers and sisters and bring them back here." Mockin stretched out wearily beneath spreading sycamore, glad to be free from the confines of a log boat's prow. He snapped out orders to the water rats standing at attention along the banks. "Get the nets, find fist. Get the nets, find fish. Archers, bring down some birds. You 4, collect wood and get a fire going. Dry wood, mind. We want as little smoke as possible. Bring fruit and berries, only the ripest ones. You, spread my cloak carefully over that bush to dry out." As the rat scurried to do his bidding, Zyril sat beside him, nibbling at a juicy grass blade. The Abbey of Redwall is not far west of here. Mockin closed his eyes, savoring the sun's warmth. "I know that. But we don't make a move until the trackers find Vannon, Askrod, Geltor, Predick, and bring them back here. Relax, Vixen, there's no hurry." However, Zyril was unable to rest. She paced the bank, honing her axe blade on the silver shale. "I'll relax when we're back on the island with that mother of ours. Half-witted old fool, you think she had enough possessions, but no, after all she does is witter on from morn till night. I must be surrounded by beauty. I don't know how our sister Lantor stands it. I'd like to surround her with a couple of boulders tied to her neck and drop her in the lake, then she could be surrounded by fishes." Malkin opened one eye. "It's treason to speak about the High Queen in such a manner, you know that." Zyril snorted contemptuously and flung her axe. It buried its blade deep in the sycamore trunk. Malkin sniggered dryly. Temper, sister of mine. That sort of behavior won't do you any good." Zyril's pale eyes blazed. She pushed aside a water rat, sending the creature staggering in the shallows as he tried to hold on to the bundle of kindling wood he was carrying. The vixen Marlfox jerked her axe blade viciously from the sycamore trunk. "High Queen, Sylph is naught but a doddering old wreck who hides behind silken curtains. Why doesn't she die and leave the island to us, her own brood?" Malkin raised himself on one paw, smiling. "That's when the trouble will really start. There's 7 of us. We'd never be able to share all that wealth and rule the island together from Castle Marl. Now without killing off each other. Remember, we're Marlfoxes, born to stealth and deceit. Only one of us could ever rule the island. There could be only one. Cyril made it as if to sheath her axe blade beneath her cloak. Then instead she suddenly brought it out in a curve of a scything swipe, only to find it locked against the curve of her brother's axe. Malcolm forced the vixen's axe to the ground and trapped it in beneath her football. He continued smiling at Cyril. You see what I mean, sister? And that was chapter 5. I think I'll call it here. I'm starting to get a little tired to read. Even though I went later yesterday. So yeah, that was chapters 4 and 5. I'm sure I'll continue at some point. I don't know if it'll be every day, but every so often I'll continue. So thanks for coming, you guys. Lloyd and V4. And anyone else who's here. So take care. Have a good night.